everyone, today I am back with a makeup tutorial. It's a super simple, super natural looking makeup for instances where you want to look pretty and polished, but you don't necessarily want your makeup to speak before you do. So perhaps professional settings, uni, maybe even a first date. I am going to address the silly things in my hair right now. Enter My Curl. It's a cheesy name, but it's quite an interesting rubber unit, and my hairdresser created these. So I paid for these. My hairdresser doesn't know who the hell I am because evidently I don't visit him very frequently. My Curl is great for hair idiots and people who don't like to spend a lot of time on their hair in the morning. So I'm going to section my hair off, and I should mention that I've already used a conditioning treatment of sorts. I used the Moroccan Oil blah blah, which is a silicone bomb, but I mean, it works just fine. And then I'm going to separate the bottom half into two. Now, taking your little My Curl, basically you just roll. There's really not that much to it. You roll until you hit the bottom. I start about halfway through, and then you clip one side, and then continue rolling until you reach the head and clip the other side. And that's pretty much it. Okay, this next step is optional, but my hair is really long, so it frequently needs a bit of help. I'm going to clamp the rubber implement with my hair straightener for about 10 seconds. The rubber is not going to melt, you're not going to have a mess because they're actually designed for this purpose, so I'll be back. Good night. I am going to start with my base. I'm using the Sunday Riley Effortless Breathable Tinted Primer. Thank you, Lisa Eldridge, you are the boss. The thing about this though, the coverage is really negligible, so I'm actually going to mix in the teeniest dot of the Dermablend Fluid Corrective. Alone, this is a very high coverage product and it's not so pliable, and the Sunday Riley is very sheer and very pliable, so together it's like Oreos and milk, cheese and crackers. It's just the match made in heaven. So I'm going to take about half a pump of the Sunday Riley and the smallest amount of the Dermablend, maybe half the size of a grain of rice, a very, very small amount on the back of my hand, and I'm going to mix them. I'm going to dab and roll this onto my skin. I swear by this technique for liquid foundations. It does take a little bit longer, but I think the result is well worth it. I'm mainly applying this just to the areas where I need it. So for me, that would be around the nose, between the brows and a bit on the chin. I'm also going to take a little bit more of the Dermablend Fluid Corrective with a fine point brush just to do some spot concealing. And this is by far the best brush I've ever used for spot concealing. It is the Chanel 24, and it's really soft, but it still has a really good amount of resistance, so you can get exactly where you need to. With the same Dermablend, I'm going to run a little bit of that underneath my eyes. I'm not really satisfied with any of my under eye concealers right now. Does anyone have any suggestions? I'm looking for something that's really thin in consistency and not too drying. I'm open to all suggestions, so please let me know. Next, going to set the under eye area with a bit of Laurent Mercier Secret Brightening Powder. Have I spoken about this enough? I think maybe I have. Now I'm not going to set the rest of my face because I love the finish and it actually lasts really well on me. I'm also not going to apply any blush. Now this may be a real sin to a lot of you, but I'm quite naturally rosy in my cheeks, and my naturally flushed ladies and gentlemen out there could probably relate to me. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put a bit of Yves Saint Laurent Touche Eclat, and I'm going to run that on my jawline. This is a really handy hint for those of us who are naturally flushed. It helps to counteract the redness in the areas where it's not desirable. So that might be for you on the jawline, perhaps on the side of the nose, bit in the temples, or maybe under the brow. And that way you can rock your natural flush in a more kind of flattering way. Running a bit of illuminating concealer pen thingy on the jawline is also a really great tip for those of us who have a darker face than we do neck and chest. Nobody is the same shade all over. The eye expects some level of variation. The issue arises is when that variation is quite harsh or has steps, definite steps. By doing this, it helps to create a more fluid gradient, and you don't have to bronze up your entire neck and chest, and you don't have to lighten your face to the point where it's ashy. Too long didn't read version, highlighty, clicky pens are multi-purpose products. So that is pretty much my base done. Now I would estimate that I have coverage on maybe 30% of my face, and by no means do I look flawless, not by a long stretch, but I genuinely look as though I don't have any foundation on, and I like that. That is what I strive for, and it's very much aligned with my foundation philosophy. I'm going to do a really quick brow now. I'm going to resist the urge to go too bold because I love a bold brow, but for every day, I think just fill in the sparse areas, and for me, I will lengthen the tail a bit. To set the brows, I'm actually going to use a clean spoolie and some hairspray, and I much prefer this to any clear brow gel that I've tried. It doesn't make the eyebrows look stringy or loaded with product. It just keeps them in place and makes them look polished, which is what we all want. For my eyes, I have already primed with my Too Faced Shadow Insurance, and I'm going to use quite a warm neutral palette today. This is by Givenchy. Warm tones sit more harmoniously on my skin, but if you prefer cooler tones, you can go for more of a mauvey neutral palette perhaps, or a grey neutral palette, but I just prefer warms on myself. There is actually a story behind this palette. Years ago, long before I got into makeup, gosh, I must have been a teenager, I was reading this magazine, I think it was Marie Claire or something, and in the beauty section of this magazine they had this exact palette featured. And I remember being so enamored by this palette, I thought to myself, one day I will own something that beautiful. And years later, and I actually hadn't forgotten about it. So when I saw it pop up on a blog sale, I thought, oh, I have to get that just for old time's sake. And I'd since read reviews that it was mediocre palette, but you know, I got all sentimental, so I purchased it, not expecting all that much. So when it arrived, I didn't have high expectations. I actually really like it. I mean, the shades are pretty standard and the textures are simply okay, but I don't know, I just really like this palette. I don't know, does anyone else have any sentimental makeup stories? Or am I the only one? So what I've done is I've used this sort of light bronze shade all over the lid, and I'm going in with this sort of warm dark brown just through the crease. And taking that same light bronze, I'm going to run a little bit on the lower lash line. And a little bit of that dark chocolate brown again, just at the outer corner. Finally, for the eyes, I'm just going to take this shimmery iridescent color. It's kind of an iridescent white, I guess, and I'm going to place that on the inner corner. And that was the easiest eyeshadow ever. Next, I'm going to curl my lashes. If I am doing nothing else, I am curling my lashes. It is just such a must for me. For the eyeliner, I'm not going to do any fancy winged eyeliner because that just wouldn't be an accurate depiction of me. I don't possess that sort of coordination before about midday and 2 caffeinated beverages. So instead, I'm going to take a long-lasting eye pencil and I'm just going to tight line my upper lash line, and that will give the illusion that I have thicker lashes and more definition around the eyes without looking like eyeliner. So it's sort of invisible eyeliner. Now for mascara, it is a battle of the samples. I have 2 contenders today. This is the Yves Saint Laurent Babydoll, and the second contender is Lancome Hypno Star. And the winner is, drumroll please, Lancome Hypno Star. I don't like the Babydoll. I found that it was very separating and it didn't give all that much volume, but the deal breaker for me was that it wilts my curl, and that's really unusual because my lashes hold a curl very well. Whereas the Lancome Hypno Star is a really dramatic lash. It's great for those of us who love to get lashy, and that is me on an everyday basis. And with whatever's left on the brush, I'm just going to run a little bit on my lower lashes. The very last step that I like to do in sort of muted everyday looks is to do a nude liner. I'm just going to remove any of the eyeshadow that may have fallen on my waterline. The pencil that I'm going to use is Illamasqua Val, which is a great one for the lower waterline. It has very good longevity. Technical difficulties ahoy! The lip that I used was Armani Maestro 500, which is a pretty blush colour and it has a high silicone content, so great for textured or chapped lips. Okay, that is the face done. Now, the great unveiling of the hair. It's pretty simple at this point. You just undo the clips and take them out. And I'm just going to zhoosh it around with my fingers a little bit. And that is pretty much your 2-minute curls. I'll try to get up and show you because my hair is so long right now. I really need a haircut. I'm not going to add any hairspray or any other products because I want the curls to relax throughout the day and I like my hair to feel touchable and tactile. So yes, that is my take on a super simple, super natural, everyday hair and makeup where you still look pretty and polished. I think that the makeup is really suitable for all seasons. I think it's trans-seasonal. But if you wanted to update this for the silly season perhaps, you could add a red lip. I have worn this eye with a red lip and it looked great. So I hope you guys all have a wonderful day and I will speak to you very soon.